Can you believe it? It is March already. Well, it's probably halfway through March by the time this goes up on Instagram and YouTube, but it is time for another reading list. And before I get to these though, I'm going to talk about a couple other things that I have here on the table. The first one being this PSE NTN bow from Knock On Archery. John Dudley, thank you so much. And for those of you who can see this, awesome. Trident, Bud's class number, amazing. So if you go to John Dudley's Instagram, you can see that he went all out on getting this first batch of PSE bows out to people. Some of the names you'll recognize, and some of them you won't. They are just solid people, part of the Knock On Nation, awesome archers, devoted to the hunt, and incredible. So I love this bow. I shot it last week for the first time. There it is. Awesome. And we used it in the filming of the Savage Sun video trailer. So Savage Sun comes out April 14th, and it is I'd say it's an archery-centric thriller. And it's the book I've wanted to write my whole life since 6th grade when I first read The Most Dangerous Game, a 1924 short story by Richard Connell. I'll talk about that a little bit more next month on next month's reading list. But I really explore the dynamic between hunter and hunted. Explore that dark side of man. So anyway, this bow, awesome, Dud. Thank you so much. Got some video of me shooting it for the first time, and of course it's all over the video trailer, so thank you. Absolutely incredible. What else do we have here? Tier 1 Concealment sent me some holsters to try out, and I like on concealable holsters when they have this flex in them. So I got a couple of these to try out, and I'm very excited to give them a go on the range when I come up for air, probably when I finish writing book 4, which I'm in the middle of right now. And what else? This one is really cool. I'm super excited about this. Well, first off, Rise and Kill First. This is an amazing book, but I'm doing research, as you can tell by all the yellow stickies in here, for my 4th novel. And in these pages here is something very cool from GLG Knife Works. And this is a bookmark made out of G10. So this thing, if you don't know what G10 is, check it out, give it the old Google, and do a little research on it. But this is my new bookmark. So yeah, amazing. Might have a couple of these on tour to give away, and I'm gonna do some more stuff with GLG Knife Works on this because, well, I'm a fan of bookmarks. Absolutely, especially ones that are dual purpose. So that is that. All right, so for those of you that have not listened to this before about my reading list, before I left the military, I was asked to put together a professional reading list for Naval Special Warfare for the SEAL teams. So I did that, broke it down by category, and it's quite extensive, as you can tell from the books behind me. And I broke it down so that people could research by category, and it would be a professional reading list for those really that are starting their journey in Naval Special Warfare, or for those people that are somewhere along the route that need a little guidance. So did that, and it's quite robust. So every month I put out a reading list now, and some of those titles are from that reading list, and others are just books that I read at different parts of my journey here, and were impactful to me at certain points along the way. So first one this month in March, I want to talk about The Fountainhead. So Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. If you haven't read Atlas Shrugged or The Fountainhead, you need to. And there is a passage here that's it's been attributed to Ayn Rand, who's an amazing person, obviously, in her own right. You should research a little bit of her background too before you dive in to these novels to give them a little context. But there's a quote here that's been attributed to her, but it really has been morphed out of this passage from The Fountainhead, and I absolutely love it. And it says it's where we have Howard Roark, the protagonist of the story, talking to the dean of his architectural school, and the dean of the architectural school is wondering why he just can't follow the rules. And it says, do you mean to tell me that you're thinking seriously of building that way when and if you are an architect? Yes. My dear fellow, who will let you? That's not the point. The point is, who will stop me? I love that. And it really does harken back to Ayn Rand's life. So Fountainhead, give it a read if you haven't. And if you have, and you haven't revisited it in a while, with the perspective and wisdom that comes along with age and experience, give it a read again. You might glean a few different perspective from its passages there. I Am Pilgrim, Terry Hayes. This is hands down the best thriller that I've read in the last decade. And that's saying a lot because I read quite a bit and I'm obviously part of the genre now. And I Am Pilgrim, Terry Hayes. I've been waiting for the second one to come out, as has everyone who's read this, for quite some time. So we'll see. So Terry, if you're out there, get to work. But this is fascinating. Give it a read if you're a fan of Brad Thor, Vince Flynn, Nelson DeVille, David Morrell, Stephen Hunter, Daniel Silva. If you like these kind of novels, this is for you. Pick it up. And there's there's a lot of passages that popped out to me, but there's one sentence that really did. And it says, "At last the West had encountered an enemy worthy of our fear." Oh, that's powerful. Awesome. I Am Pilgrim, Terry Hayes. Pick it up. All right, going back a little bit, In Cold Blood, Truman Capote. There has been a lot of movies, both about the making, the writing of this book, and about the event that is explored in the pages of what some consider one of the first true crime novels. Truman Capote describes it as the first non-fiction novel. So if you haven't read this, pick it up. It's extremely powerful. And I'd say pick it up and read it before you dive into some of the controversy that surrounds it, to the history of how it was written, the perspective that was taken in the writing. But that's well worth exploring as well. And maybe my recommendation comes from the way I read it, which was just picking it up in school, reading it as a work of literature, and then going into the background on it. So fascinating work. Pick this up if you haven't read it. Amazing. All right, 1 second after. There's a few books that I gift quite a bit, and this is one of them. If you haven't read this one, do so. It will not leave you dry-eyed, that's for sure. And I think Newt Gingrich calls it future history. So it's about an electromagnetic pulse that takes out the country really, and about a town that mobilizes and how they survive and prevail. So this one, a must read for you and your family. My wife loved this one actually as well, and it helped her understand a little bit more of my focus on being prepared for things. So give this one a read if you haven't. You're in for a treat. All right, this one came from my professional reading list that I put together for the Naval Special Warfare Center before I retired. The Looming Tower, Lawrence Wright. It is a series also on Hulu that I have not watched yet, and I need to do that. But I go back to this book time and time again. It's titled The Al-Qaeda and the Road to 9/11. So this really gives a solid background. And there's not one book that is the definitive study of the road to 9/11, but if there was, this would be close. And absolutely incredible read. Reads like a thriller, but unfortunately we know how it ends. And if you haven't read this one, and especially if you're writing about 9/11, you're writing about terrorism, you want to understand terrorism, you want to understand the roots of how we got to where we are today and why we're still sending young men and women downrange almost 20 years after 9/11, this is your book. Politicians, people in the military, bureaucrats, anybody that's part of that apparatus, read this book. Absolutely fascinating. I turn to it time and time again for research. So, The Looming Tower. All right, another one that was on my professional reading list, and not just on my professional reading list, but this was given to every SEAL officer candidate as they went through the junior officer training course, something that I was fortunate enough to be the officer in charge of for a couple months near the end of my time in uniform. And it was probably one of the most rewarding times I had in the SEAL teams because I knew I was getting out. I was near the end, and it was time to pass a lot of those lessons that I learned over the previous almost 20 years onto that next generation of SEAL officers that was stepping into the breach. So every one of them got this and carried it around with them for the month that they were in the junior officer training course. They had a couple other books too, but this one you can pick up. You can read it for sure in under an hour by Stephen Pressfield. Now, Stephen Pressfield wrote The Gates of Fire, The Legend of Bagger Vance, the Afghan Campaign, and a series of books on creativity that I recommend to aspiring authors, writers, anybody in the creative space. And some of the titles, I've discussed them on this before. They've been part of my past reading list, but one's called Do the Work, another one's called Turning Pro, The War of Art, The Authentic Swing, just fantastic. But this one really stands alone and speaks to the warrior culture, the warrior ethos. And there's a passage in here that speaks to me. There's a few actually, but this one that I first read when I read Gates of Fire, 20 some years ago. And this one is just, this one means something to me. And it says, as a tiny contingent of defenders gathered around, the man declared that the Persian multitude was so numerous that when the archers fired their volleys, the mass of arrows blocked out the sun. Good, declared Danikis. Then we'll have our battle in the shade. Solid. That doesn't explain warrior culture. I don't know what does. So anyway, pick this one up. Whether you're part of that warrior culture, or you're writing about it, or you're just facing adversity in your own life, perhaps, pick this up. It'll give you a window into the past as far as the warrior culture goes. So pick it up. And Stephen Pressfield, thank you for writing it, and thank you for writing everything else that you've written, because it's been extremely inspiring to me. Really, since I discovered you all those years ago. What else do we have? All right, a couple last things here. The website, Jack Carr USA, that has merchandise on it. Things are back in stock, and 100% of the proceeds for these things go to the veteran-focused organizations that are highlighted on the site. And this is a very cool bookmark. Once again, I'm a fan of bookmarks. It has a 556 and 556 brass attached to it to keep your place, and bone frog on there to always remember. And then this little phrase that I've really, it's meant a lot to me over the years. Never tell me the odds, because had I paid attention to those odds, I probably never would have become a SEAL, never would have started BUDS, never would have enlisted in the Navy to start down that path, and never would have submitted a manuscript to Simon & Schuster, and wouldn't be an author today. So instead of wasting time thinking about those odds, focusing on those odds, take that bandwidth and focus it on the task at hand. You only have so much bandwidth, so much time every day. Focus it where it needs to be, which is getting you and your family where you need to go. So never tell me the odds, never pay attention to those odds. And this is a sweet bookmark. And the bottle breachers out there, my friend Eli Crane started this while he was getting out of the Navy. You might have seen him on Shark Tank. So you can breach your bottles with this bad boy. And coffee cups, t-shirts, hats, all that stuff's back on there. Once again, 100% of the profits going to the veteran-focused foundations that are mentioned on the site, Jack Carr USA. And let's see, to finish it up, True Believer is out in paperback. They did a fantastic job with this paperback. I could not be more fired up about the cover. There's some blurbs now inside from people who have enjoyed the novel. I have a new intro that talks about the redactions. There were 54 in the hardback, and then I appealed those to the Department of Defense and won 37 of them on appeal. So those 37 are unredacted in the paperback version of True Believer, which is out now. It also includes the prologue to Savage Son. So if you want a little sneak peek at Savage Son, you can pick up True Believer, see what redactions have been unredacted, so the things that the government didn't want you to see initially, and take a sneak peek at the first little prologue of Savage Son. And with that being said, yep, here we are. Savage Son coming soon. It's April 14th, this thing hits shelves, and I'll talk a little bit more about it next month, but this is the book that I've been wanting to write since the 6th grade, and it's one of the ones that I wrote down when I was initially figuring out what plot, what storyline to go with for my first novel, and this is the one that I wanted to go with. But I knew that the characters weren't quite there yet. I needed to take them on a journey, and that journey begins with the Terminal List, moves into True Believer, and then here we are in Savage Son. By the time I started this, I knew the characters were ready to explore that dark side of man, explore that dynamic of hunter versus hunted in these pages. So Savage Son, April 14th, available for pre-order now. And that is it. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll be checking in again next month.